I can count higher than 20. Revenge of the Sith is the worst Star Wars film. I'm not addicted to Taco Bell. These are just a few of the lies of P has forced me to tell. As someone with very little experience in these games besides some Dark Souls 1 and all of Sekiro, I'm completely unready for the painful journey into Lies of P without healing. But it's a journey I undergo nonetheless. I'll be doing things a tad different this time, and instead of sharing all 68 hours of my torturous descent into lying madness, let's focus on the main culprits, the bosses of Lies of P. Now let's go be a liar and set other people's pants on fire. Spoilers ahead. I always thought the only parade I would ever be in would be the Black Parade, and I guess I'm right, since the first boss of the game, the Parade Master, is more than happy to send me on my way. As the first boss, our jolly giant murderous puppet, which is a description you never want uttered, is meant to be a simple fight. Boy oh boy, am I proving he's not the hardest to get to low health, but that won't stop me from perishing over and over before I can finish the job. At least I don't need my brain much to get the timing for perfect blocking his few attacks, and then rapidly swatting him while he's busy plucking his own head off to bash me with. Thankfully, when someone rips their head off, I found that's often a last resort, and it doesn't take much more frantic slashing to bring this parade to an end. After dealing with the most annoying chimney sweeps known to man, I come across a lone mad donkey. The years have clearly not been kind to donkeys since Shrek passed, but that won't stop me. While it's wonderful how often he can fall for the same lethal strike to the back, it's not my smartest move that I keep starting the fight while missing chunks of my health. I nearly had him on my first try, so my brain says, sure, you almost won with full health. Just think how good you'll do starting with far less health. I think I might be allergic to logic. It takes me 11 deaths before I force myself to the Stargazer first, and then fight Donkey and actually win this time. Who knew full health actually mattered? It's a mad concept. Something I really enjoy about this game is that for the most part, at least for the first 3/4 of the game, all the wandering minions are just there to help build your level and be a minor nuisance, not actual trouble. That's where the bosses come in, to remind me I'm not actually good at this game. Like the scrapped Watchman, the giant police puppet with the most delayed attacks in history. As delayed as they may be, it doesn't stop him from being exceptionally good at killing me before I can even say, hey, don't do that. That's not nice. Stop. Which is my only form of defense in most fights. After 13 deaths to him, I said BRB so I could dramatically wander the halls while listening to music. I may not be good at fighting, but you can always count on me for being melodramatic, which actually works wonders at helping me win. 9 deaths later anyways. Also helps that once I get him low on health, I completely chicken out and start chucking gears at him to finish the job. If I've gone the last 25 years of life without getting good, it sure isn't gonna start now. While wandering a factory without a hard helmet, which I know spells trouble, I discover a survivor. I hope that name is a misnomer, as he attacks me in his madness. I have to assume the mouse mask was too similar to rats for him, which if I know one thing about rats, as I am one, is that we make people crazy. And now I'm stuck in this tiny room with his rapid attacks while I run around the table and hope he's not smart enough to go over it. Spoilers, he's not, but he is fast enough to catch me anyways, and so commences a long string of deaths at his endless slashing. My only saving grace is, like Donkey before him and all the other humans of the game, he leaves his back wide open for my unscrupulous attacks. This repeat tactic yields me a victory, and much more importantly, I am the epitome of style now. You can all applaud with thinly veiled envy for my beauty, or just pretend you didn't see me lower myself to my death seconds after, because I didn't want to spend 3 seconds taking a ladder. I'm really not a smart rat, am I? While not a boss, I'd like to direct our attention to the shovel-wielding menace to society. I hate him. That's all that needs to be said. Hate without limit. But at least the next little boss, and I do mean that figuratively, since he's not little at all, is a real joy for me to fight, with his slow, predictable attacks. My soul really needed this. What it doesn't need is to be barbecued and crushed by a walking furnace. But that's about par for the course at this point. If I killed myself because I didn't want to wait 3 seconds to climb a ladder, How do you think I feel about the long run to reach this boss fight, only to be squashed within 5 seconds? I really would appreciate it if every time he becomes vulnerable to being stunned, he won't sprint across the entire map before I can do anything about it. After removing most of his health, the jerk lights me on fire, and I go into panic mode. I blacked out mentally at this point, and I'm terribly surprised to find myself still breathing a short scramble later. Nice to see that sometimes, blacking out in a murderous rage with a fire axe can in fact have a happy ending. Time to have whatever joy I felt there beaten away by another shovel dude. Oh, and now zombies as well to terrorize me. Because you know, the murderous puppet rampage wasn't enough. We need zombies as well. Life never fails to remind me it can always get worse. Which brings me to the creepy butt face here. And that's not even an insult. His face is literally on his butt, which he loves to use to squish me into fine puppet powder. So far, the bosses have been tough, but not make me calmly stand up, shut my Xbox off, get into bed, shut the blinds, and fall asleep in the covers without changing out of my jeans or long sleeves at 3 in the afternoon kinda tough. Archbishop Buttface is that kind of tough. It doesn't take me long to get a hang of his relentlessly long combos, but he gives me very little time for counterattacks, and only a couple hits obliterates my poor health bar whenever I fail to react fast enough. But worry not, getting him to 0 health isn't the worst thing ever. No, the worst thing ever is when it turns out that's only phase 1, and the other side of him slithers out to slice my puppet powder self into puppet atoms. Should I manage to beat all of phase 1 without damage, phase 2 says nope and sends me on my way regardless. For 5 hours, I use everything at my disposal, sometimes getting quite close to winning, but of course, getting crushed anyways. I avoid the new face as much as I can, but always manage to fail to keep up with his increased speed. I even brought in a little friend to help me, but I actually found this only made me perform far worse as my read of the fight got thrown off just enough. If only a healing mechanic would exist in this game, but tragically, nothing like that exists. Only by showing that I'm superior with the ultimate power of fire and the most panicked chopping possible am I able to bring the bishop down and find sweet, sweet freedom. Which lasts me until the next boss, the eldest of the Black Rabbit Brotherhood. Unfortunately, this gang of furries, while on paper aren't too tough, are quite a bit tougher when I decide if I'm ever going to get better, I need to learn to be a lot more skillful. I strive to learn to perfect block every single attack, instead of relying more on dodging, hit and runs, and throwables. This is how the game is probably meant to be played, but it relies on having skill in medical care, neither of which I possess. So for 4.5 hours, I bond with one really big sword bro and his 3 annoying siblings as I strive to learn every move. If it isn't obvious, I'm an excruciatingly slow learner. But hey, at least I can say for this one fight, I fought fair, learned the moves perfectly, and held my own. And all it cost me was 133 deaths and the ability to remember how to spell my own name. I think I knew how to spell it before this anyways. Interesting enough, this is the highest number of deaths I will experience in one boss fight in this game, suggesting that maybe, fighting fair, it's not for me. But now we've made it to the King Puppet himself. Sure, you might say he doesn't want company based on the swinging, flaming chandelier, but I prefer to see it as a, hey, look over here sign. How inviting. I just wish when the Massive King asked me to dance, Pinocchio would show some sense and say, yes please. No wonder everyone's trying to kill me if I'm gonna be this rude. While the king is quite big and slow, I'm quite tiny and slow-minded. I'm really good at getting him to half health before his big arms fling me off to heaven. Not having a plethora of moves means it doesn't take too long to figure him out, by my standards anyways, but this game proves it has a love for second phases. Getting sliced up sucks, yet I'm happy to learn this is the easier phase. I'm an idiot, so I'll often die, or be heavily weakened by the time I reach him, but at least Romeo here has a glaring weakness. Every time I dodge left, it leaves him open for easy hits, and it would make for a quick fight if he didn't decide that, nope, he's the main character now, unleashing a wave of flame attacks that I'm woefully too underskilled to handle. What a surprise, right? Me, being underskilled? Crazy, I know. Only with a fountain of luck and smashing as hard as possible into him when he even thinks about using that move, am I able to interrupt him and bring the king to his knees. Honestly, it may have taken 78 tries, but I was expecting worse. Probably tells you how used to failure I am at this point. I'm just glad the next fight is against Solomon Grundy. He's much more dangerous than I remember, but that's because I'm not Batman, I expect. Even with 2 phases though, he doesn't seem to get repeating the same attacks over and over, with large recovery time, is the definition of insanity. Doesn't stop me from getting cocky and dying a bunch, but it sure helps. Time for a vacation, I say, and where better than to Shrek's old swamp? It's not such a bad place to be, with the mini-bosses of this crazy owl and more of those towering puppets being quite easy to beat, allowing me to recover a smidge of my sanity. The vacation does come to a halt quite quickly, though, when I'm put up against Swamp Thing himself. Swamp Thing here is, how do I put it, the worst. In the entire game, and all of Sekiro as well, no boss irritated me quite like this sloppy, wet piece of spinach. In fact, most bosses, no matter how much they use me to floss with, I don't get irritated. This guy is an exception. With next to no warning, he loves to poison me and wipe out half my health in a heartbeat. He's the kind of boss that loves to kill you immediately into the fight, but doesn't actually kill you, which makes it worse. I know there's no way I'm gonna beat both phases of him, which yep, he has 2 also, when I'm nearly dead right at the start, or even halfway. Heck, I can beat his first phase without damage, and then get absolutely stomped on in 3 moves with his second phase. My friend beat this guy in 6 tries. It took me 100 attempts, and I had to use absolutely everything. Fire, friendly specter, tons of bombs, prayers to every religion I know, absolutely everything I had to barely win. This is why being a vegetarian is good and needed. Not for the animals, but to teach the trees to fear us, so they don't rise up like this. I'm still seething with rage by the time I reach the next mini-boss, the robber weasel, and I ensure the poor thief feels my wrath. And by that I mean, get my butt handed to me again by the hardest of the human enemies yet. There's a golden rule that if you say you'll go to sleep right when you beat the next boss fight, you won't be sleeping till the sun is shining and the birds outside are mocking you with their morning cries. These troubling fights should make it clear why when I came across the next mini-boss and quickly found she couldn't grasp the concept of a ladder, I took advantage of that to chuck every conceivable object at her from afar, before running in to finish her off for an easy win. I'm not proud of my actions, but who needs pride? I'm still breathing. And I didn't need any tricks to take down the return of the Parade Master after only 3 tries. It's a sure bet. If it takes me only a few tries, everyone else probably won right away, but let me pretend I developed some skill. But the game is more than happy to prove me wrong when the Furry Brotherhood strikes again. They're back to menace me, and this time they realize they could attack all at once. I thought I'd fight fair, but a couple beatdowns by them and a long run back made me rethink that foolish notion. If they can have friends, so can I. The Spectre and I don't have too much trouble fighting them off, but when the eldest brother comes back from the dead, I take no chances and light him up with all the bombs I have. Hey, I'm the only one that's allowed to resurrect around here, thank you, and I'll do what I have to make sure it stays that way. I'm finally in the endgame with their deaths, and not many bosses stand between me and victory. Thing is, none of these victories, before or later, will matter as much as the victory of winning this cat's approval. The little one spent all game hissing at me, but finally I may hold her, and I guess shake her around a little while staring intensely. Waited all game to do this, but forgot to teach Pinocchio how to hold a cat. My bad. I reluctantly leave her so that I can bash in a giant's weak knee. Maybe not my coolest move, but he's in my way, and he's suffering from obvious weak spot on a boss syndrome. I'll do what I must. one horrendously difficult trek through waves of elite minions so I can be sure I'm in the final area of the game, I come across the Black Cat. No, sadly not the gorgeous Spider-Man rogue, but at least with this guy and his sister, Red Fox, I can defuse any fighting by simply giving them a coin each. I managed to beat both bosses without a single death, so I guess you can say I'm something of a gamer myself. Between those dangerous and heart-stopping conversations, though, I have to go up against a large, electrifying woman. And I do mean that literally. Just like every other attempt at flirting in my life, this one ends with me in tremendous pain as I'm chopped to pieces. The wonderful thing is, unlike Swamp Thing, when she hits you, you don't have to wait to die. You're just dead. How considerate of her. The bridge we fight on allows me to engage in plenty of hit and runs as I get a strong feel for her rapid first phase attacks. She's far, far too quick for me to attempt to parry the majority of her hits. I mean, look at this. But her wind-ups leave me plenty of time to understand how to dodge and hit with minimum risk. But like all bosses, her favorite hobby is to have a second phase, so I can remember, once again, I'm not the main character. If I didn't have a tool that allowed me to perfect deflect her bolts back at her, I'd be screaming at Zeus for vengeance right about now. Not that it stops her lightning-fast attacks, sending me to Hades anyways. I must be jaded by now to all this because it only breaks a quarter of my heart when she kills me a split moment from winning after 100 attempts. Thankfully, the next attempt gives me the win when I pelt her with every item I have. Instead of getting to fight a giant whale as the final boss of the game, as one would expect in a Pinocchio story, no, I have to fight a behemoth of a man powered by, oh, I don't know, God. I got a little confused here, I admit, but I just have to say, can I please fight a whale now? Is that an option over getting rocked by the arm of God? I honestly have zero clue how one wins this fight without the help of the ever-loyal Spectre, and even then, I once again had to resort to the flinging of explosives to win against the endless onslaught of Simon here. Simon says die and die now, and I more than oblige him. Doesn't the game know I don't have the skill to win this fairly? But what counts as fair anymore when he's frickin' pulling moves like this? The game is not satiated with my tears yet. Big spoiler now, so if you still want secrets, come back later when you're ready. But for the rest, onwards to my pain. Geppetto, the admittedly most obvious villain ever, is now demanding my heart so he can resurrect his dead son, or something dumb like that. Nameless here, which I guess is a name to be fair, his other puppet is far superior to me in every way. Hits way harder, can take way more damage, and if I can barely push through to his second phase, he channels Lightning McQueen, letting loose as though this is Sekiro and not the story of Pinocchio goes to hell. Why didn't Geppetto just put my puppet heart into that body in the very beginning? I'd have won this game way faster. It's really saying something that this final boss is optional, and I can give up my heart at any point. But spite is a strong motivator. No matter how many times I'm brought down, no matter how much I have to completely alter my build so that I can stand a chance, no matter what, I will not give that frickin' old man my heart. Only by embracing a shield arm am I able to keep up a strong enough defense against Speedy, and with very carefully timed bonks to the head, which I panicked the whole time on, barely bring him down right before I almost perish again. And with that, huzzah! That was mind-bogglingly difficult for me. Lies of P took me 68 hours and 34 minutes to beat, with 1,168 deaths in total. I don't feel I won as much as I simply survived, but I'll take it. It's quite an excellent game though, and minus Swampy, I really enjoyed it. Now I'll leave you to ponder if it's better to lie for the sake of others or to be honest at their detriment. See you later, friends.